Hi there, and welcome to my local woods, and say hello to the horses. I was asked in the comment section of a previous video to try to explain why the Viking Age happened, or rather to try to explain the reasons for the Viking raids. And I will try to do that here in this video. And by the way, my name is Bjorn, and I'm a historical novelist. I live here in Norway, and I am obsessed with the Viking Age. So I think one could say that the Vikings, or the Norse, the Scandinavians back then, they started raiding because they could. They had a technology that was far superior to the people that they would encounter when it comes to shipbuilding and warfare and such things. So they started raiding and plundering because they could. I'll get back to that side of the story, but to understand the expansion of Norse culture, or the Viking mentality, we need to go back to a guy called Karl the Great, Charlemagne. In the year 782, Karl the Great ordered the beheading of 4,500 Saxons in what is now Lower Saxony in Germany. And it was said that the river, I believe, Aller, was flowing red with their blood. And he did that to punish them for not being following up on their vows to be Christians, because they had been forced into Christianity. It shocked Europe. It shocked people to the core. And many people believe that when King Gottfred of Denmark ordered the construction of a wall across Denmark, or it's actually in Germany now, but across what was then southern Denmark, to defend against Frankish or invasion of the Franks. That was a response to that massacre. Because, and here's my main point, and what some people, especially in the USA, they get angry when I say this, but we need to understand that back then Christianity was forced upon people. Christianity was not seen as a force of good. It was seen as a force of subjugation and control. And many people, and this is just a theory, but many people now believe that the Viking raids started, at least, as kind of a way to bring the war to their doorstep. Now, this is just a theory, but we usually say that the Viking Age started with the attack on Lindisfarne in 793. So just a few years after the massacre. That was at least partly inspired by this attitude that we need to push back against the expansion of Christianity. It is said that Karl the Great, Karl the Slaughterer, he wanted to act as a true king of Israel. He was apparently cited as claiming that was his motivation behind the killing, the beheading of 4,500 Saxons. Now, I said that the Viking Age started with the attack on Lindisfarne 793, that year. And that's normally how we define the Viking Age, and we normally say that it ended in 1066. But nobody sat down and decided, okay, Now the Viking Age starts, and in 1066, well, we finished fighting now, so now we are ending the Viking Age. That's not what it was like, obviously. If we go to Scandinavia, it's obvious that at some point plundering became part of the economy. So what you would do if you had ambition. If you had ambition, you needed money. You needed money to pay your men to stay with you, to fight for you. They wouldn't do it for free. So you would go plundering. You would go and you would sail out and rob some monasteries, and people also engaged in capturing people and selling them off as slaves, especially to people, traders coming up from northern Africa. So it became part of the economy, Viking economy, if you will. And now we're not really talking about a response to the expansion of Christianity. Now we are talking about a pure, if you will, selfish need for gold and silver, so that you could rise up in society. Now, also, not only people who wanted to be kings did that. That was probably something that you did, that many people did, just to be able to buy some cattle, maybe to buy land. We know that in some occasions slaves were given the opportunity to come and fight, and through that gain freedom and independence. Of course, up until now, I only talked about the warlike and violent expansion of Norse culture and dominance, but at least a very large part of those people who, we say, went Viking, or who went sailing out in the North Sea and also towards the east, they didn't do that with the intention of killing and robbing. They were just looking for land, places to settle. They went as far as North America. And this happened during a time in Scandinavia, a time when the population grew, and some people are saying that the motivation for settling in places across the sea were probably because they couldn't find land back home. It was all owned by the chieftain and so on. And they probably went looking for, more freedom and independence and a good life. Much like when Europeans came to North America centuries later. They were just looking for a better life. They probably didn't have any intention of doing anything violent. They were just normal people traveling in search of a better life. So that's not what people normally think about when we are talking about the Viking Age, but it's part of the story. People, at least up until recent times, they tend to look at the Vikings as these monsters, but that was not the case. And I know that I use the word Viking when I should say the Norse, because not all Norse went Viking and so on. But then again, there is another definition of the word Viking, which just means that people who came from these parts around the Viking, which is the fjord right out right down there. If I may say a few words about why the Viking Age ended, and I like to put it this way, it ended because they won. It ended because they won. They successfully conquered England. and Knut became, the Danish king Knut became king of England. And so it was a very successful culture. It was very dominant, and it spread out, and that in itself resulted in the end of the Viking Age. We will get back to that in another video, and we can talk more about that. There is more to it, of course. There always is. And by the way, if you want to see more videos like this one, if you want to join me out here in the woods and down there at my Viking cabin, please consider subscribing. That would be awesome. And leave a comment. I don't have all the answers. I'm just someone who is very interested in the Viking Age. And yeah, so leave a comment, and let's have a respectful and peaceful discussion about this. Okay. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Okay. And by the way, happy Midsummer. This is Midsummer's Night. Okay. Bye-bye.